Hello there. This is just going to be a fairly short video about the ongoing war that's happening in Ukraine and now in Russia as well. Let me make it clear, I'm not a big supporter of Russia or a big supporter of Vladimir Putin. However, it's been very clear to me and to many people from the very start, this whole situation in Ukraine was completely engineered by the American government, in particular Victoria Nuland, and also Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden, who have been complicit in all of this and have profited financially from it, as are and will do various corporations within the American framework, in much the same way as Halliburton and BlackRock and all these other people profited from the reconstruction of Iraq. They're poised to profit enormously after the war is over in the reconstruction of Ukraine. So, I mean, what the American hopes were, obviously, were to foment a coup and start a huge war. Make sure that the Minsk agreement didn't continue, make sure by sending Boris Johnson that no peace agreement could be reached, all to achieve two ends. One, to disable and weaken Russia, and two, to enable them to basically rape Ukraine for all its resources and make huge profits for American corporations. Obviously, the propaganda news isn't going to admit to any of this, but the evidence is there if you're prepared to look. In fact, I'm going to leave a couple of links regarding Victoria Nuland in the description. So, I mean, in reality, this is not a war between Ukraine and Russia. This is a proxy NATO war right from the very beginning. Before the war began, when Ukraine was shelling the Donetsk region, they had American and NATO advisors and helpers providing support, logistics, weapons, etc. And when it became a hot war after the Crimea crisis and the actual invasion by the Russians into these breakaway republics, then you start to see an uptick of all the NATO advisors. The reality now is not only are they supplying huge numbers of weapons from NATO, they're supplying all the technical assistance and specialist troops. There is specialist troops from NATO on the ground helping Ukrainians, as well as sort of technical operators and advisors. And of course, the Americans in particular are giving satellite help, intelligence support to the Ukrainian army. I mean, even though you can say that a tiny minority, probably like 5% or less of the troops on the ground are actually NATO troops, it's still essentially a war that's being directed by NATO, particularly the Americans, against Russia. And this was right from the start. This was the whole intention of bringing down the legitimate Ukrainian government in the maiden coup, the continual bombing for 8 years of the Donetsk region, and provocation of Russia over and over and over again, to such a point that they would actually have to respond. And of course, the West turns around and goes, "Oh, look at horrible Russia, look what they've done, isn't this awful? What a naughty, naughty Russia, what a bad country they are, what a bad leader Putin is." But the fact is, they've been stoking the fire and poking the bear, as the saying goes, for years and years and years. And finally, the Russians felt they had no choice but to intervene and protect these people who are basically ethnic Russians. I don't think they wanted to have a war with Ukraine, but they didn't have any choice. But now this could escalate even further to full-scale NATO involvement in the future, which I hope it won't do. But if that is the case, who is to blame here? Is it the Russians, or is it actually NATO, and in particular the Americans, Joe Biden, and all his corrupt deals in Ukraine, especially with his son, and Victoria Nuland? She's a war criminal. She should be up in The Hague for having caused the deaths of hundreds and thousands of Ukrainians and Russians unnecessarily. This was all political, geopolitical game. And there is no need for this war. And the blame for this lies entirely at the feet of Victoria Nuland. And I hope that one day she will be forced to account for what she's done and spends the rest of her life in prison with any luck. Okay, that's all I have to say on the matter. If you feel prompted to make a comment, please do so. I'd like to know what you think about this, and give a thumbs up and subscribe if you like what I have to say. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.